In a world where health and profit often collide, the pharmaceutical industry stands at the center of numerous conspiracy theories. Among the most persistent is the belief that Big Pharma suppresses cures and promotes diseases to maintain their profits. Today, we delve into the world of Big Pharma conspiracies, exploring their origins, examining the claims, and separating fact from fiction. The origins of Big Pharma conspiracy theories can be traced back to the early days of the pharmaceutical industry and are deeply rooted in historical events, societal mistrust, and a series of high-profile scandals that have shaken public confidence in medical institutions. To understand why these theories have gained traction, we need to explore the historical context and key incidents that have contributed to the pervasive belief that pharmaceutical companies prioritize profit over public health. The pharmaceutical industry began to take shape in the late 19th and early 20th centuries with the advent of modern medicine and the commercialization of drugs. Early pharmaceutical companies like Bayer and Merck started by producing basic medicinal compounds. As scientific understanding of diseases and medical conditions improved, these companies began to develop more complex medications. The rapid advancements in medical science during this period led to significant breakthroughs, such as the discovery of antibiotics, vaccines, and synthetic drugs. However, this era was also marked by a lack of regulatory oversight. Many early pharmaceutical products were rigorous testing or approval processes. This lack of regulation led to the proliferation of patent medicines, which were often sold with exaggerated claims and little evidence of efficacy. These products were sometimes laced with substances, including opium, cocaine, and alcohol, leading to widespread health problems and fatalities. The most infamous example is the case of radium water, a radioactive tonic marketed as a cure-all, which caused severe radiation poisoning and death among its users. The early 20th century saw the establishment of regulatory bodies, such as the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, to oversee the safety and efficacy of pharmaceutical products. Despite these efforts, several high-profile scandals continued to undermine public trust. One notable case was the thalidomide disaster of the 1960s. Thalidomide was a drug developed by the German pharmaceutical company Chemie Grünenthal, marketed as a sedative and treatment for morning sickness in pregnant women. However, it was later discovered that thalidomide caused severe birth defects, affecting thousands of babies worldwide. This tragedy highlighted the dangers of insufficient drug testing and regulatory oversight, leading to stricter regulations and greater scrutiny of pharmaceutical companies. Another significant scandal occurred in the early 2000s with the withdrawal of the painkiller Vioxx, produced by Merck. Vioxx was initially hailed as a breakthrough treatment for arthritis and chronic pain, but it was later linked to an increased risk of heart attacks and strokes. Internal documents revealed that Merck had known about these risks, but had downplayed them to maximize profits. The resulting lawsuits and public outrage further eroded trust in the pharmaceutical industry and fueled the perception that companies were willing to prioritize profits over patient safety. These historical events set the stage for the development of modern Big Pharma conspiracy theories. The term Big Pharma itself has come to symbolize the collective influence and power of large pharmaceutical companies, which are often perceived as monolithic entities driven by greed. This perception has been reinforced by the consolidation of the industry, with a few multinational corporations dominating the market and wielding significant political and economic influence. The modern era of Big Pharma conspiracy theories can be traced back to the 1990s and early 2000s, a period marked by the rise of the internet and the proliferation of alternative media sources. The internet provided a platform for the rapid dissemination of information and ideas, including conspiracy theories. Websites, forums, and social media allowed individuals to share their experiences and suspicions about the pharmaceutical industry, creating a virtual echo chamber where these ideas could gain traction and evolve. One of the key factors driving the spread of big pharma conspiracy theories is the perception of conflicts of interest within the industry. Pharmaceutical companies often fund medical research, clinical trials, and continuing education for healthcare professionals. While this funding is essential for advancing medical knowledge and developing new treatments, it also raises concerns about the potential for bias and undue influence. Critics argue that financial ties between pharmaceutical companies and researchers can lead to skewed study results, favoring the sponsor's products and downplaying risks. The marketing practices of pharmaceutical companies have also come under scrutiny. Aggressive marketing campaigns aimed at both healthcare providers and consumers have raised ethical questions about the promotion of drugs. Direct-to-consumer advertising, which is allowed in only a few countries, including the United States, has been criticized for encouraging the overprescription of medications and the medicalization of normal conditions. The case of OxyContin, an opioid painkiller aggressively marketed by Purdue Pharma, exemplifies the dangers of such practices. The company's misleading marketing strategies contributed to the opioid epidemic, leading to widespread addiction and thousands of overdose deaths. The rise of alternative medicine and holistic health movements has further fueled big pharma conspiracy theories. Many proponents of alternative medicine view the pharmaceutical industry as inherently corrupt and profit-driven, contrasting it with the perceived purity and naturalness of alternative treatments. This dichotomy has led to a growing skepticism of conventional medicine and the belief that pharmaceutical companies suppress natural cures to protect their financial interests. High-profile cases, such as the controversy over the use of cannabis for medical purposes, have reinforced these beliefs. The COVID-19 pandemic has also played a significant role in the resurgence of big pharma conspiracy theories. The rapid development and deployment of vaccines, hailed as a scientific triumph, were met with suspicion and resistance by some segments of the population. Misinformation and conspiracy theories about the vaccine's safety, efficacy, and the motives of pharmaceutical companies spread rapidly on social media, exacerbating vaccine hesitancy. The unprecedented collaboration between governments, international organizations, and pharmaceutical companies to combat the pandemic was viewed by some as evidence of a coordinated effort to control and manipulate the public. Whistleblowers and investigative journalists have been instrumental in uncovering unethical practices within the pharmaceutical industry, further fueling conspiracy theories. High-profile cases, such as the revelations by former GlaxoSmithKline executive Cheryl Eckerd about contamination and safety violations at a manufacturing plant, have highlighted the potential dangers of corporate malfeasance. While these exposés are crucial for holding companies accountable, they also contribute to the perception that the industry is fundamentally corrupt. The media's role in shaping public perception of the pharmaceutical industry cannot be underestimated. Sensationalist headlines and investigative reports focusing on scandals and controversies often overshadow the industry's positive contributions to public health. This skewed coverage can create a disproportionate sense of distrust and suspicion, feeding into conspiracy theories. The portrayal of pharmaceutical companies in popular culture, including films, television shows, and literature, often reinforces these negative stereotypes, depicting them as ruthless entities willing to do anything for profit. In conclusion, the origins of big pharma conspiracy theories are deeply rooted in historical events, societal mistrust, and a series of high-profile scandals that have shaped public perception of the pharmaceutical industry. The rapid dissemination of information and ideas through the internet and alternative media sources has further fueled these theories, creating a complex and often contentious narrative around the motives and practices of pharmaceutical companies. Understanding this historical context is crucial for addressing the root causes of these conspiracy theories and fostering a more informed and balanced perspective on the pharmaceutical industry. Big pharma conspiracy theories are built around several core claims that suggest pharmaceutical companies engage in unethical practices to maximize profits at the expense of public health. These claims, though often lacking concrete evidence, have gained traction due to the industry's history, the complexity of medical science, and the challenges of regulatory oversight. This chapter delves into the key claims of Big Pharma conspiracy theories, examining each one in detail and exploring the factors that contribute to their persistence. One of the most pervasive claims is that pharmaceutical companies suppress cures for diseases to continue profiting from long-term treatments. This idea posits that it is more profitable for these companies to manage chronic conditions rather than cure them. Critics argue that diseases like cancer, diabetes, and HIV/AIDS generate substantial revenue through the ongoing sale of medications, and that finding a cure would disrupt this lucrative market. This claim taps into a fundamental distrust of corporate motives, suggesting that financial interests outweigh the moral imperative to alleviate human suffering. While it is true that chronic diseases are indeed profitable for the pharmaceutical industry, the notion that cures are being actively suppressed is far more complex and problematic. Developing cures for diseases is an incredibly challenging scientific endeavor, requiring years of research, rigorous testing, and substantial financial investment. Moreover, many diseases are multifactorial, meaning they are caused by a combination of genetic, environmental, and lifestyle factors, making it difficult to find a single cure-all solution. The pharmaceutical industry does invest in research aimed at finding cures and innovative treatments. The development of antiretroviral therapy for HIV, which has transformed HIV from a death sentence to a manageable chronic condition, is one example of how the industry has contributed to significant medical advancements. Similarly, ongoing research in cancer immunotherapy and gene editing technologies holds promise for potential cures and more effective treatments. However, the slow and incremental nature of scientific progress can make it appear as though cures are being deliberately withheld, especially when breakthroughs are eagerly anticipated but slow to materialize. Another key claim of Big Pharma conspiracy theories is that pharmaceutical companies promote diseases and create unnecessary medications to expand their market. This idea suggests that the industry invents new diseases or exaggerates the prevalence of existing conditions to sell more drugs. Examples often cited include the marketing of lifestyle drugs, such as those for erectile dysfunction or hair loss, and the medicalization of normal conditions like mild anxiety or occasional sleeplessness. Critics argue that by expanding the definition of disease, pharmaceutical companies can increase their customer base and boost sales. This practice, known as disease mongering, involves promoting awareness of certain conditions through advertising and partnerships with patient advocacy groups, thereby increasing demand for treatments. While there is evidence that pharmaceutical companies engage in aggressive marketing strategies, the claim that they create diseases is more contentious. The medical community recognizes that some conditions, previously dismissed or poorly understood, warrant legitimate medical attention. For instance, conditions like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome were once marginalized but are now recognized as serious health issues. The recognition and treatment of these conditions can improve patients' quality of life, though it also opens the door for pharmaceutical companies to market new drugs. The challenge lies in distinguishing between legitimate medical advancements and the over-medicalization of normal variations in human health. A third significant claim is that pharmaceutical companies exert undue influence on medical research and practice, leading to biased outcomes and compromised healthcare. This claim centers on the relationships between drug companies, researchers, and healthcare providers. Critics point to the funding of clinical trials, the sponsorship of medical conferences, and the provision of perks and incentives to doctors as evidence of potential conflicts of interest. The influence of pharmaceutical companies on medical research is a well-documented concern. Industry funding can introduce bias, consciously or unconsciously, into the design, conduct, and reporting of clinical trials. Studies have shown that industry-sponsored research is more likely to produce favorable results for the sponsor's products. This phenomenon, known as publication bias, occurs when positive findings are more likely to be published, while negative or inconclusive results are suppressed. The relationship between pharmaceutical companies and healthcare providers also raises ethical questions. Drug companies often provide financial incentives to doctors, such as speaking fees, consulting agreements, and sponsored travel to conferences. These practices can create a conflict of interest, potentially influencing prescribing behaviors and undermining the trust between patients and their physicians. In response to these concerns, many countries have implemented regulations to increase transparency and limit the influence of pharmaceutical companies on medical practice. For example, the U.S. Sunshine Act requires drug companies to disclose payments and other transfers of value to physicians and teaching hospitals. A related claim is that pharmaceutical companies manipulate drug prices to maximize profits, making essential medications unaffordable for many patients. This issue has come to the forefront in recent years with several high-profile cases of price gouging, where the cost of life-saving drugs was increased exponentially. Examples include the dramatic price hike of EpiPen, an emergency treatment for allergic reactions, and the increased cost of insulin, a vital medication for diabetics. The high cost of prescription drugs in the United States, compared to other countries, has fueled the perception that pharmaceutical companies prioritize profits over patient access to medication. Drug pricing is a complex issue influenced by factors such as research and development costs, regulatory approval processes, and market exclusivity periods granted by patents. While pharmaceutical companies argue that high prices are necessary to recoup investment and fund future research, critics contend that price manipulation and lack of competition often drive costs unnecessarily high. The claim that pharmaceutical companies engage in unethical testing practices, particularly in developing countries, is another significant aspect of Big Pharma conspiracy theories. Critics argue that drug companies conduct clinical trials in low-income countries to exploit vulnerable populations, taking advantage of weaker regulatory environments and lower costs. These trials often involve experimental treatments that may not have been thoroughly tested for safety and efficacy. Ethical concerns about conducting clinical trials in developing countries are not unfounded. Instances of unethical research practices, such as the infamous Tuskegee syphilis study conducted by the U.S. Public Health Service, have left a lasting legacy of mistrust. While many pharmaceutical companies adhere to international ethical standards, such as the Declaration of Helsinki, the potential for exploitation remains a critical issue. Ensuring informed consent, protecting participants' rights, and providing post-trial access to successful treatments are essential components of ethical research that must be rigorously enforced. Lastly, Big Pharma conspiracy theories often include the claim that the pharmaceutical industry has undue influence over regulatory agencies and government policies. Critics argue that the revolving door between industry and regulatory bodies, such as the FDA, compromises the integrity of the approval process and allows unsafe or ineffective drugs to reach the market. The lobbying efforts of pharmaceutical companies, which spend millions of dollars annually to influence legislation and policy, further exacerbate these concerns. The close relationship between regulatory agencies and the pharmaceutical industry is a complex issue. On one hand, collaboration and communication between these entities are necessary to ensure the timely development and approval of new treatments. On the other hand, the potential for regulatory capture, where industry interests dominate regulatory decisions, poses significant risks to public health. Transparency, accountability, and independent oversight are crucial to maintaining the integrity of the regulatory process. In conclusion, the key claims of Big Pharma conspiracy theories revolve around the belief that pharmaceutical companies suppress cures, promote diseases, exert undue influence on research and medical practice, manipulate drug prices, engage in unethical testing practices, and influence regulatory agencies. While these claims often stem from legitimate concerns and historical incidents, they are frequently exaggerated or based on incomplete information. Understanding the complexities of the pharmaceutical industry and the regulatory environment is essential for addressing these claims and fostering a more nuanced and informed perspective. By promoting transparency, accountability, and ethical practices, we can work towards a healthcare system that prioritizes public health while recognizing the important role of the pharmaceutical industry in advancing medical science. Examining the evidence behind the Big Pharma conspiracy theories requires a deep dive into the complex world of pharmaceutical research, development, regulation, and marketing. This chapter will explore the processes involved in bringing a drug to market, the role of regulatory agencies, and the evidence, or lack thereof, supporting the various claims made by conspiracy theorists. The journey of a pharmaceutical drug from discovery to market is long, complex, and highly regulated. It begins with the discovery phase, where researchers identify potential compounds that may have therapeutic benefits. This phase involves extensive laboratory research and preclinical testing, often using cell cultures and animal models to assess the safety and efficacy of the compounds. Only a small fraction of these compounds progress to the next stage due to the stringent criteria for safety and potential effectiveness. Once a promising compound is identified, it enters the clinical trial phase, which is divided into three main stages. Phase 1 trials involve a small group of healthy volunteers to evaluate the drug's safety, dosage range, and side effects. Phase 2 trials expand the study to include a larger group of patients who have the condition the drug is intended to treat. These trials focus on the drug's effectiveness and further assess its safety. Phase 3. Trials are even larger and involve diverse populations to confirm the drug's effectiveness, monitor side effects, compare it to commonly used treatments, and collect information that will allow the drug to be used safely. Each of these phases is rigorously controlled and monitored. Clinical trials must be approved by ethics committees and regulatory bodies before they can proceed, and they are conducted according to strict protocols to ensure the integrity of the data and the safety of the participants. Despite these safeguards, clinical trials can and do encounter issues, such as unexpected side effects or difficulties in recruiting enough participants. These challenges highlight the inherent uncertainties and complexities of drug development. Regulatory agencies like the FDA in the United States, the European Medicines Agency, EMA, and other national health authorities play a crucial role in overseeing the drug development process. These agencies review the data from clinical trials to determine whether a new drug is safe and effective enough to be approved for market. This review process is comprehensive and involves detailed scrutiny of all aspects of the drug's development, including manufacturing practices, labeling, and post-marketing surveillance plans. The regulatory process is designed to be transparent and rigorous to ensure that only safe and effective drugs reach the market. However, critics argue that the influence of pharmaceutical companies on regulatory agencies can compromise this process. The phenomenon known as regulatory capture occurs when a regulatory agency becomes dominated by the interests of the industry it is supposed to regulate. While there have been instances of regulatory failures, it is important to recognize that the vast majority of regulatory decisions are made based on scientific evidence and are intended to protect public health. One of the primary claims of Big Pharma conspiracy theories is that pharmaceutical companies suppress cures to maintain their revenue streams from long-term treatments. To evaluate this claim, we must consider the nature of scientific research and the drug development process. Finding a cure for a disease is extraordinarily challenging, often involving complex biological systems that are not yet fully understood. Many diseases, such as cancer, are not a single entity, but a collection of related conditions with multiple causes and variations, making it difficult to develop a one-size-fits-all cure. Moreover, the competitive nature of the pharmaceutical industry means that any company that does discover a cure for a major disease stands to gain significant financial and reputational rewards. The patent system provides a period of market exclusivity during which the company can recoup its investment. Thus, the incentive to find and market a cure is substantial. Historical examples include the development of vaccines for diseases like polio and smallpox, which have effectively eradicated these conditions in many parts of the world. Another aspect of the conspiracy claims is that pharmaceutical companies promote diseases and create unnecessary medications to expand their market. This idea suggests that the industry manipulates public perception to increase demand for their products. While it is true that pharmaceutical companies engage in aggressive marketing strategies, it is an oversimplification to say that they create diseases. Medical advancements have led to better understanding and diagnosis of many conditions, some of which were previously underdiagnosed or misunderstood. The identification and treatment of conditions like depression, anxiety, and ADHD have improved the quality of life for many individuals. However, the marketing practices of pharmaceutical companies do raise ethical concerns. Direct-to-consumer advertising, which is permitted in only a few countries, including the United States, has been criticized for encouraging the overprescription of medications. These advertisements often emphasize the benefits of a drug while downplaying potential side effects, leading to increased demand from patients. Additionally, the promotion of lifestyle drugs for conditions like erectile dysfunction or cosmetic issues has been criticized for medicalizing normal aspects of human life. The influence of pharmaceutical companies on medical research and practice is another significant concern. Industry funding for research can introduce biases, consciously or unconsciously, into the design, conduct, and reporting of clinical trials. Studies have shown that industry-sponsored research is more likely to produce favorable results for the sponsor's products. This bias can be mitigated through rigorous peer review, transparency in funding sources, and the publication of negative results. Efforts to increase transparency, such as the requirement to register clinical trials and disclose conflicts of interest, are steps in the right direction. The claim that pharmaceutical companies manipulate drug prices to maximize profits is grounded in reality, as evidenced by several high-profile cases of price gouging. The cost of prescription drugs in the United States, for instance, is significantly higher than in other countries, partly due to the lack of price regulation. The case of Martin Shkreli, who increased the price of the life-saving drug Daraprim by over 5,000%, and the soaring costs of EpiPen are examples that have sparked public outrage and calls for reform. While pharmaceutical companies argue that high prices are necessary to fund research and development, the lack of transparency in pricing and the significant profits reported by these companies suggest that the system is flawed and in need of oversight. The ethical concerns around conducting clinical trials in developing countries are another facet of Big Pharma conspiracy theories. Critics argue that pharmaceutical companies exploit vulnerable populations in countries with weaker regulatory frameworks to conduct their research more cheaply and with less scrutiny. While conducting clinical trials in diverse populations is scientifically valuable, ensuring ethical standards are maintained is paramount. Cases like the controversial trials of the drug Trovan in Nigeria in the 1990s have highlighted the potential for exploitation and the need for stringent ethical oversight. Finally, the relationship between pharmaceutical companies and regulatory agencies is a crucial area of concern. The so-called revolving door phenomenon, where individuals move between positions in regulatory agencies and the pharmaceutical industry, can lead to conflicts of interest. Transparency and accountability are essential to maintaining public trust in the regulatory process. Measures such as mandatory cooling-off periods, where former regulators must wait before joining the industry they once oversaw, can help mitigate these concerns. In conclusion, while the key claims of Big Pharma conspiracy theories often stem from legitimate concerns, they are frequently exaggerated or based on incomplete information. The pharmaceutical industry is indeed profit-driven, and there have been instances of unethical behavior. However, the evidence supporting the most extreme claims of conspiracy theorists is lacking. The development of new medications is a complex, expensive, and highly regulated process designed to ensure safety and efficacy. Addressing the concerns raised by conspiracy theories requires a nuanced understanding of the industry and a commitment to transparency, accountability, and ethical practices. By fostering a more informed perspective, we can better appreciate the essential role of the pharmaceutical industry while advocating for necessary reforms to protect public health. Whistleblowers and scandals have played a significant role in shaping public perception of the pharmaceutical industry, contributing to the spread of Big Pharma conspiracy theories. These revelations have exposed unethical practices, highlighted regulatory failures, and underscored the need for greater transparency and accountability. This chapter delves into some of the most notable whistleblower cases and scandals, examining their impact on public trust and the regulatory landscape. One of the earliest and most influential whistleblower cases in the pharmaceutical industry involved Merck and its painkiller Vioxx X. Introduced in 1999, Vioxx X was marketed as a breakthrough treatment for arthritis and acute pain. However, it soon became apparent that the drug was associated with an increased risk of heart attacks and strokes. Internal documents later revealed that Merck had known about these risks, but had downplayed them to maximize profits. In 2004, after mounting evidence and public pressure, Merck voluntarily withdrew Vioxx from the market. The Vioxx scandal had far-reaching consequences. It led to thousands of lawsuits, resulting in billions of dollars in settlements and fines. The case also prompted significant scrutiny of the FDA's approval process and its post-marketing surveillance systems. Critics argued that the FDA had failed to adequately monitor the safety of Vioxx and had been too reliant on data provided by Merck. In response, the FDA implemented reforms to strengthen its oversight, including the establishment of the Office of Drug Safety and the introduction of the Risk Evaluation and Mitigation Strategies (REMS) program. Another high-profile whistleblower case involved GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, and its diabetes drug Avandia. In 2010, former GSK executive Cheryl Eckerd came forward with allegations that the company had failed to address serious contamination and safety violations at its manufacturing plant in Sidra, Puerto Rico. Eckerd's revelations led to a federal investigation and a $750 million settlement, one of the largest of its kind at the time. The case highlighted the importance of whistleblowers in exposing corporate misconduct and ensuring the safety of pharmaceutical products. The Avandia scandal further eroded public trust in the pharmaceutical industry. Avandia, once a blockbuster drug for GSK, was linked to an increased risk of heart attacks and other cardiovascular problems. Despite these concerns, GSK continued to market the drug aggressively. In 2012, GSK agreed to a $3 billion settlement with the U.S. government, resolving allegations of fraud and failure to report safety data. The case underscored the need for rigorous regulatory oversight and the vital role of whistleblowers in holding companies accountable. The opioid crisis in the United States is another significant scandal that has fueled Big Pharma conspiracy theories. Purdue Pharma, the maker of OxyContin, has been at the center of this crisis. Introduced in 1996, OxyContin was marketed as a revolutionary painkiller with a low risk of addiction. However, it soon became clear that the drug was highly addictive and had been heavily overprescribed. Purdue's aggressive marketing tactics, which downplayed the risks of addiction and targeted doctors with incentives, contributed to a surge in opioid abuse and overdose deaths. In 2007, Purdue Pharma and 3 of its executives pleaded guilty to criminal charges of misbranding OxyContin and agreed to pay $600 million in fines. Despite this settlement, the opioid crisis continued to escalate, leading to further investigations and lawsuits. In 2019, Purdue Pharma filed for bankruptcy as part of a settlement agreement that included billions of dollars to address the opioid epidemic. The case highlighted the devastating impact of corporate misconduct and the need for stronger regulatory measures to prevent such crises in the future. The opioid crisis has had a profound impact on public perception of the pharmaceutical industry. The widespread devastation caused by opioid addiction and the role of pharmaceutical companies in fueling the epidemic have reinforced the belief that profit motives often take precedence over patient welfare. This perception has been further compounded by the revelations of other opioid manufacturers and distributors' involvement in the crisis, leading to a cascade of legal actions and settlements. Whistleblowers have also played a crucial role in exposing unethical practices related to the pricing of life-saving medications. One notable case involved Martin Shkreli, the former CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals, who gained notoriety in 2015 for increasing the price of the antiparasitic drug Daraprim by over 5,000%. This price hike sparked outrage and highlighted the issue of price gouging in the pharmaceutical industry. Shkreli's case, along with similar incidents involving other companies, led to increased calls for regulatory reforms to address drug pricing and ensure affordable access to essential medications. In addition to these high-profile cases, numerous other whistleblower revelations have brought attention to various unethical practices within the pharmaceutical industry. These include allegations of off-label marketing, where companies promote drugs for uses not approved by regulatory agencies, and kickback schemes, where companies provide financial incentives to doctors to prescribe their products. These practices not only violate ethical standards, but also compromise patient safety and undermine the integrity of the healthcare system. The impact of these scandals and whistleblower cases extends beyond the immediate consequences for the companies involved. They have led to broader regulatory and legislative changes aimed at increasing transparency, accountability, and oversight in the pharmaceutical industry. For example, the U.S. Sunshine Act, enacted in 2010, requires pharmaceutical companies to disclose payments and other transfers of value to physicians and teaching hospitals. This legislation aims to reduce conflicts of interest and ensure that medical decisions are based on the best interests of patients rather than financial incentives. Internationally, efforts to address unethical practices in the pharmaceutical industry have also gained momentum. The World Health Organization, WHO, and other global health organizations have developed guidelines and initiatives to promote ethical conduct in medical research and marketing. These efforts include the WHO's Good Clinical Practice Guidelines, which provide a framework for conducting clinical trials ethically and transparently, and the International Federation of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers and Associations, IFPMA, Code of Practice, which sets standards for ethical interactions between pharmaceutical companies and healthcare professionals. Despite these efforts, challenges remain in ensuring that the pharmaceutical industry operates ethically and transparently. The complex and global nature of the industry, coupled with varying regulatory environments, makes it difficult to enforce consistent standards. Moreover, the financial power and influence of pharmaceutical companies continue to raise concerns about their ability to shape policy and regulatory decisions. The role of the media in exposing pharmaceutical scandals and raising public awareness cannot be understated. Investigative journalism has been instrumental in bringing to light unethical practices and holding companies accountable. Reports by journalists like Catherine Eben, who expose safety violations and data manipulation at generic drug manufacturing plants, have prompted regulatory action and increased scrutiny of the industry. The media's role in amplifying the voices of whistleblowers and highlighting the human impact of corporate misconduct is crucial in driving regulatory reforms and ensuring greater accountability. The relationship between pharmaceutical companies and regulatory agencies is a critical area of focus in addressing the concerns raised by whistleblowers and scandals. Ensuring that regulatory agencies remain independent and free from industry influence is essential for maintaining public trust. Measures such as mandatory cooling-off periods for regulators before joining the industry, increased transparency in regulatory decision-making, and stronger conflict of interest policies can help mitigate the risk of regulatory capture and ensure that public health remains the top priority. In conclusion, whistleblowers and scandals have played a pivotal role in shaping public perception of the pharmaceutical industry and fueling Big Pharma conspiracy theories. These revelations have exposed unethical practices, highlighted regulatory failures, and underscored the need for greater transparency and accountability. While significant progress has been made in addressing these issues through regulatory reforms and increased oversight, challenges remain in ensuring that the pharmaceutical industry operates ethically and in the best interests of public health. The continued vigilance of whistleblowers, investigative journalists, and regulatory agencies is essential in maintaining accountability and fostering a healthcare system that prioritizes patient welfare over profit. The impact of social media and misinformation on the spread and persistence of big pharma conspiracy theories cannot be overstated. Social media platforms have fundamentally changed the way information is disseminated, creating an environment where misinformation can spread rapidly and widely. This chapter explores how social media and digital communication have amplified big pharma conspiracy theories, the mechanisms by which misinformation spreads, and the challenges of combating it. The rise of social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram has transformed the landscape of information sharing. These platforms allow users to share content with their networks instantly, making it possible for information to go viral within minutes. While this has many positive aspects, such as facilitating communication and access to information, it also has significant downsides, particularly in the context of misinformation and conspiracy theories. One of the primary ways social media amplifies big pharma conspiracy theories is through the creation of echo chambers and filter bubbles. Echo chambers are online spaces where individuals are exposed primarily to information that reinforces their existing beliefs. Algorithms used by social media platforms prioritize content that is likely to engage users, which often means showing them information that aligns with their views. This creates a feedback loop where users see more and more content that confirms their biases, leading to increased polarization and entrenchment of beliefs. Filter bubbles are a related phenomenon, where the personalization algorithms of social media platforms filter out information that does not align with users' interests and beliefs. As a result, users are less likely to encounter information that challenges their views, making it difficult for them to critically evaluate the accuracy of the content they see. This selective exposure to information reinforces existing beliefs and makes it easier for misinformation to take root and spread. Social media platforms also facilitate the spread of misinformation through the viral nature of content sharing. Sensationalist and emotionally charged content is more likely to be shared, liked, and commented on, increasing its visibility and reach. Conspiracy theories about big pharma often contain dramatic and alarming claims that evoke strong emotional responses, making them particularly susceptible to going viral. Once these theories gain traction, they can spread rapidly across multiple platforms, reaching a large and diverse audience. The role of influencers and opinion leaders in spreading big pharma conspiracy theories is another critical factor. Influencers with large followings can significantly amplify misinformation by sharing it with their audience. These influencers often have high levels of trust and credibility with their followers, making their endorsements of conspiracy theories particularly impactful. The reach and influence of these individuals can turn a fringe theory into a mainstream topic of discussion. Misinformation about the pharmaceutical industry is not limited to fringe websites and social media accounts. Some mainstream media outlets and public figures have also contributed to the spread of conspiracy theories. Sensationalist reporting, clickbait headlines, and a lack of rigorous fact-checking can all contribute to the dissemination of false or misleading information. When respected news sources or public figures endorse or fail to debunk conspiracy theories, it lends credibility to these ideas and makes them more likely to be believed by the general public. The COVID-19 pandemic has provided a stark example of how social media can amplify big pharma conspiracy theories. Misinformation about the origins of the virus, the safety and efficacy of vaccines, and the motives of pharmaceutical companies has spread widely on social media platforms. Claims that COVID-19 vaccines contain microchips, alter DNA, or are part of a plot to depopulate the world have gained significant traction despite being thoroughly debunked by scientists and health authorities. The rapid spread of misinformation during the pandemic has had serious public health implications. Vaccine hesitancy fueled by conspiracy theories has hindered vaccination efforts, prolonging the pandemic and leading to preventable illnesses and deaths. The World Health Organization, WHO, has described this phenomenon as an infodemic, where an overwhelming amount of information, both accurate and false, makes it difficult for people to find trustworthy sources and reliable guidance. Combating misinformation on social media is a complex and ongoing challenge. Social media companies have implemented various measures to address the spread of false information, including fact-checking partnerships, content warnings, and algorithm adjustments to reduce the visibility of misleading content. However, these efforts are often reactive rather than proactive, and the sheer volume of content makes comprehensive oversight difficult. Fact-checking organizations play a crucial role in debunking misinformation and providing accurate information to the public. These organizations work to verify claims, identify false or misleading information, and publish corrections. Collaborations between fact-checkers and social media platforms have led to the flagging of false content and the promotion of verified information. Despite these efforts, the impact of fact-checking can be limited by the speed at which misinformation spreads and the reluctance of some users to trust corrections from perceived mainstream sources. Education and media literacy are essential tools in the fight against misinformation. Teaching individuals to critically evaluate sources, understand the scientific process, and recognize the tactics used by purveyors of misinformation can help reduce the impact of false information. Schools, universities, and public health campaigns can all play a role in promoting media literacy and encouraging critical thinking. The role of government and regulatory bodies in addressing misinformation is also important. Policies that promote transparency, accountability, and the dissemination of accurate information can help build public trust and counteract the spread of false narratives. Regulatory bodies can also work with social media companies to develop guidelines and standards for managing misinformation, ensuring that platforms are held accountable for the content they host. Despite these efforts, combating misinformation about Big Pharma and other topics remains a significant challenge. The decentralized and global nature of social media makes it difficult to control the spread of false information, and the motivations behind conspiracy theories, distrust of authority, desire for simple explanations, and the appeal of sensationalism are deeply rooted in human psychology. Addressing these underlying motivations requires a multifaceted approach that combines education, regulation, and community engagement. Building public trust in scientific institutions and the pharmaceutical industry is essential for countering conspiracy theories. This can be achieved through greater transparency, open communication, and consistent efforts to engage with the public in meaningful ways. In conclusion, the impact of social media and misinformation on the spread and persistence of Big Pharma conspiracy theories is profound. Social media platforms facilitate the rapid dissemination of false information, creating echo chambers and filter bubbles that reinforce existing beliefs. The role of influencers, sensationalist media, and the challenges of fact-checking further complicate the landscape. Combating misinformation requires a comprehensive approach that includes education, regulatory measures, and efforts to build public trust. By addressing the root causes of misinformation and promoting a culture of critical thinking and informed decision-making, we can work towards a more accurate and balanced understanding of the pharmaceutical industry and its role in public health. In an era where misinformation is rampant and public trust in institutions is wavering, critical thinking and vigilance are more important than ever. This chapter delves into the importance of these skills in navigating the complex landscape of pharmaceutical information, understanding the nuances of Big Pharma conspiracy theories, and making informed decisions about healthcare. Critical thinking is the ability to analyze information objectively, evaluate the credibility of sources, and make reasoned judgments. It involves questioning assumptions, recognizing biases, and seeking evidence before forming conclusions. In the context of Big Pharma conspiracy theories, critical thinking is essential for distinguishing between legitimate concerns and unfounded claims. One of the first steps in applying critical thinking to pharmaceutical information is understanding the scientific process. Scientific research is a rigorous and systematic method of inquiry designed to produce reliable and reproducible results. It involves forming hypotheses, conducting experiments, collecting data, and drawing conclusions based on evidence. Peer review, where other experts in the field evaluate the research, is a crucial component of this process, helping to ensure the validity and reliability of scientific findings. Understanding how clinical trials work is also important. Clinical trials are conducted in phases to evaluate the safety and efficacy of new drugs. Phase 1 trials test a new drug on a small group of healthy volunteers to assess its safety and determine a safe dosage range. Phase 2 trials involve a larger group of patients who have the condition the drug is designed to treat, focusing on effectiveness and side effects. Phase 3 trials are expanded further to a broader patient population, comparing the new drug to standard treatments. Successful Phase 3 trials are followed by regulatory review and approval before the drug can be marketed. Recognizing the role of regulatory agencies in overseeing drug development and approval is another key aspect of critical thinking. Agencies like the FDA in the United States and the EMA in Europe are responsible for ensuring that new drugs are safe and effective before they reach the market. These agencies evaluate clinical trial data, inspect manufacturing facilities, and monitor post-marketing safety to protect public health. Understanding the regulatory process helps to contextualize the claims made by pharmaceutical companies and assess the reliability of their products. Evaluating the credibility of sources is a fundamental component of critical thinking. Reliable sources of pharmaceutical information include peer-reviewed journals, official statements from regulatory agencies and reputable health organizations such as the World Health Organization, WHO, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. When encountering information from less formal sources such as social media or personal blogs, it's important to check for citations, examine the qualifications of the authors, and cross-reference with trusted sources. Being aware of common logical fallacies can also aid in critical thinking. Logical fallacies are errors in reasoning that can undermine the validity of an argument. For example, the appeal to authority fallacy involves relying on the opinion of an authority figure rather than evidence. While expert opinions are valuable, they should be supported by empirical data. The false dichotomy fallacy presents a situation as having only two options when there are actually multiple possibilities. In the context of Big Pharma conspiracy theories, recognizing these fallacies can help individuals identify flawed arguments and seek more nuanced perspectives. Another important aspect of critical thinking is understanding cognitive biases, which are systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality in judgment. Cognitive biases can affect how we perceive information and make decisions. For instance, confirmation bias is the tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs. This bias can lead individuals to give undue weight to evidence that supports their views while disregarding contrary evidence. Awareness of cognitive biases can help individuals recognize their own potential for bias and strive for a more balanced evaluation of information. Media literacy is closely related to critical thinking and involves the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, and create media in various forms. In the context of pharmaceutical information, media literacy means being able to critically evaluate news reports, advertisements, and social media content about drugs and healthcare. This includes recognizing sensationalism, identifying potential conflicts of interest, and understanding the difference between advertising and unbiased reporting. Practicing critical thinking and media literacy can help individuals make more informed decisions about their health and healthcare. This involves asking questions such as, What is the source of this information? What evidence supports this claim? Are there alternative explanations? What are the potential biases of the author or organization? By consistently applying these questions, individuals can better navigate the complex and often contradictory landscape of pharmaceutical information. Vigilance, in this context, means staying informed and alert to potential misinformation. It involves actively seeking out reliable information, staying updated on new developments in healthcare and pharmaceuticals, and being cautious about accepting claims at face value. Vigilance also includes being aware of the potential for misinformation and recognizing the tactics used to spread it, such as fear-mongering, cherry-picking data, and using emotional appeals to bypass rational analysis. Public health campaigns and educational programs play a vital role in promoting critical thinking and vigilance. Schools, universities, and community organizations can teach these skills through dedicated curricula and workshops. Public health authorities can also contribute by providing clear, accurate, and accessible information about drugs, healthcare, and the scientific process. By empowering individuals with the tools to critically evaluate information. These initiatives can help combat the spread of misinformation and improve public health outcomes. Healthcare professionals also have a responsibility to foster critical thinking and vigilance among their patients. Doctors, nurses, and pharmacists can help by explaining the rationale behind medical recommendations, discussing the evidence supporting treatments, and addressing patients' concerns about medications. By building trust and encouraging open communication, healthcare professionals can help patients make informed decisions and feel more confident in their healthcare choices. The role of social media platforms in promoting critical thinking and vigilance is also significant. Platforms can implement measures to reduce the spread of misinformation, such as fact-checking partnerships, algorithm adjustments to prioritize credible sources, and providing users with tools to report false information. Additionally, platforms can promote media literacy initiatives and provide resources to help users evaluate the credibility of the content they encounter. Regulatory bodies and policymakers also have a role to play in promoting critical thinking and vigilance. By implementing policies that increase transparency in the pharmaceutical industry, such as requiring the disclosure of clinical trial data and conflicts of interest, regulators can help build public trust. Policymakers can support educational initiatives and public health campaigns that promote media literacy and critical thinking skills. In conclusion, critical thinking and vigilance are essential skills for navigating the complex landscape of pharmaceutical information and combating big pharma conspiracy theories. Understanding the scientific process, evaluating the credibility of sources, recognizing cognitive biases and logical fallacies, and practicing media literacy are all crucial components of these skills. By fostering a culture of critical thinking and vigilance through education, public health initiatives, and responsible communication, we can help individuals make informed decisions about their health and healthcare. This, in turn, can lead to better health outcomes, increased trust in scientific institutions, and a more informed and engaged public. The pharmaceutical industry, like any other, has its flaws and challenges. However, the advancements in medicine and healthcare have saved countless lives and improved the quality of life for millions. By understanding the facts, questioning responsibly, and promoting transparency, we can ensure that the industry works for the benefit of all. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of big pharma conspiracy theories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay informed, stay critical, and stay healthy.